My name is Miss Lizzie. I don't ever smoke the dizzy, but we can always share some ditsies. It's just a cup in time. This song doesn't have to rhyme. Life's all of us, not every moment we can be feeling fine. I wanna share a moment, just a second if you will, maybe even a cup of thrill. We could share this performance. It's tea time, come sit with me.
Well, welcome to Tea Time with Miss Liz. That's right, Miss Liz is back, and we have an incredible returning guest who you guys probably recognize as soon as I pop him up. We have Freddy Zental in the house, and we're going to be talking about his memoir today. So he's solo today. We're going to have a little different cup of tea. But before we get started, you guys know how Miss Liz rolls. Get over to all those good platforms: Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Clapper, Lemonade, all those good platforms. Give those a like, follow, and subscribe. If you find a guest on there, give them a follow as well. Jump over to the podcast apps: Podbean, Listen Notes, iHeartRadio, Deezer, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all those good platforms. But I really want you guys to jump over to babyboomers.org, because if you're looking to be featured on different podcasts and Miss Liz doesn't bring you the flavor you're looking for, there's over 50 different podcast hosts that are over there, and they'd love to have you as a guest as well. So check out babyboomers.org. Miss Liz has been partnered with them for about over 3 years now. So let's get started with disclaimer and then a beautiful intro, and then we're going to get Freddie in here and we're going to spill some tea and have some fun today. Disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz's Tea Time is a global platform dedicating to sharing real life stories, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations that inspire awareness, healing, and connection. Miss Liz is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment during the live broadcast, please grant StreamYard permission to display your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that all the content brought forward during any Tea Time show is presented in good faith. However, discussions may include opinions, beliefs, and perspectives that do not necessarily represent the views of Miss Liz or the Tea Time platform. Information shared by guests is based on their own experiences and is perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All guests, viewers, and participants are responsible for using their own good judgment when considering any action or decision that may relate to these discussions. Some episodes may cover sensitive topics, including but not limited to trauma, abuse, grief, mental health, and other emotionally triggering subjects. Listeners' and viewers' discretion is strongly advised. Tea Time with Miss Liz is an open discussion forum designed to offer insight, inspire awareness, and create connection. It is not a substitute for professional, medical, legal, or therapeutical advice. If you require professional support, please seek assistance from qualified professionals or trusted resources in your area. If you have any questions regarding this disclaimer or the content of the discussion, you are welcome to contact me, aka Miss Liz, directly at my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com or visit my link tree at Miss Liz's Tea Time. By choosing to participate in, comment on, or view these live shows, you acknowledge and accept this disclaimer. Your participation is entirely voluntary. Miss Liz welcomes you to join the conversation with an open heart, and if at any time you feel this platform is not right for you, I respect your wishes and decision and welcome you back whenever you're ready. Tea Time with Miss Liz is serving truth and awareness one cup at a time. Well, welcome to Tea Time with Miss Liz, where every conversation reminds us that life's greatest journey is not measured by how we travel, but by how deeply we discover ourselves along the way. Today, we welcome back a returning guest and friend whose life has been dedicated to helping others awaken to a deeper understanding of love, connection, mindfulness, and authentic living. Please join me in welcoming Freddy Zental Weaver, author, international speaker, transformational coach, and co-founder of the TantraNova Institute, where he has spent decades guiding individuals and couples towards greater intimacy, emotional awareness, conscious relationships, and personal transformation. In his memoir, Zental by Tantric Journey, Freddy shares his remarkable experience that shapes his life, from personal challenges and profound awakenings to discovering a path rooted in compassion, mindfulness, and human connection. His story reminds us that true transformation doesn't happen by escaping life. It happens by becoming fully present within it. Today, we'll explore the journey behind the Zental, my Tantric Journey, conscious relationship and authentic connection, mindfulness and personal transformation, living with intention and presence, and finding purpose through life's experience. Freddy reminds us that the greatest relationship we ever build is the one we have with ourselves. So grab your favorite cup and join us for a meaningful conversation filled with wisdom, compassion, transformation, and real life tea, truth, experience, and awareness. And let me get Freddy in here and spill some tea.
Hey, Miss Liz.
Welcome, Freddy. It is an honor to have you back.
Good to see you. Wow. Great to be on your platform again.
So, Freddy, for all the listeners who are just tuning in for the first time, tell them a little bit who Freddy was as a little guy and who Freddy is now.
Yeah, well, I've outlined a lot of my stories in my new memoir, Zental, My Tantric Journey. The last 25 years, I've been a co-founder and director with my partner, Elsbeth Meuth, of TantraNova Institute here in Chicago. We've been all over the world teaching practices and how to connect to our deepest desires and our fullest authentic selves. So as a little guy, in my book I outline, I had a good beginning of life. My father was a physician. My mom was a school teacher before she became a principal. We lived in LA. I was born in DC, but my father, interesting enough, his uncle who raised him was a physician and became a physician just 3 generations out of slavery. And well, when his uncle died, he left my father equivalent to $700,000 in cash. So my father was going to move the family after his medical school to Los Angeles, where he was doing a psychiatric internship at UCLA. And so he was looking for a house to buy in Brentwood, right near UCLA, Westwood area, that was close to the hospital. So the real estate agent went to the house and said, "Oh, yes, the people interested. He's a doctor. Oh, great. And the wife is a teacher. Oh, wonderful. And they have 2 kids. Oh, great." And then the black folks showed up and they took the house off the market. And this is a story that I've told. I was very young, like 3 years old. I didn't see it, but I've been told the story. My mom said that house, we did fine. He bought another house in the black area of Los Angeles, and we were fine. But that house sold about 6 years ago for $3 million, and my father was going to pay cash. So that was the early beginnings of some of the racial stuff that I was to experience later in life. And that didn't shape my life totally because I had a good life. We were secure. My parents were smart. Life was good. But there was the racism that was still a part of what I call this clay that we live from in our lives. We all have this clay, like from birth to the moment. We have these experiences in our life, and neurosynaptically, emotionally, energetically, and in our story belief, we remember these stories and often live from there into the now and create our future from there. And so my book outlines a lot of different experiences that I had that ultimately led me being my authentic self and creating TantraNova with my partner, Elsbeth, when I was, I think I was 44. It was 25 years ago. So the book outlines different things. At the beginning, it starts out, that was that very beginning, but at about 7 years old, my folks went through a divorce, and I was one of the kids who go to live with my father. And he was a psychiatrist to a lot of big theater people in Los Angeles, movie people. Sally Kellerman was one of his patients, Vic Morrow, who had a TV show called Combat, and Sally Kellerman was Hot Lips Houlihan in the show. I forget the name of him. It'll come to me. At any rate, and so there was a guy. His name was Frank Silvera, who was a big actor. He had been in a lot of shows. He had just come off of filming with Marlon Brando and Richard Harris on Mutiny and the Bounty. He was Mutiny and the Bounty. He was the 3rd person in the credits, and so he was a friend of my father's. And at the time, in 1965, I guess it was, he wanted to start a theater for black actors in Los Angeles because there weren't a lot of places for them to practice the craft. So the first production was called Medea, the Greek mythology of Medea. She kills her kids to get back at the husband. And so he says, and your son would be the perfect kid to get killed. So I'm cast in this show. And Medea is played by a woman named Via Richard. She's passed on now, but she was Sidney Poitier's mother in Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. And she had a nursemaid, and the nursemaid was Maya Angelou. So I'm working with these 2 divas, in rehearsal and in production of this play. So in rehearsal, and I'm new to acting. I'm like 7 years old, and I'm sitting on the knee of Bea Richards, who's Medea, and Frank says, "Okay, now I want you to reach up and kiss her." And I'm like, I don't. She doesn't look like I want to kiss her, you know what I mean? But I got into it, and I did it, and I felt the truth of really kissing her, or, seeing her as my mom. And that was my first experience with what I now share with people as an understanding of what I call a curious witness of the clay that we believe to then shape a new reality. So in that theater, I shaped a new belief that this was my mom, which made it believable to the audience. And what we do in life is we shape our reality from our stories that we believe, because we are reshaping the moment, consciously or unconsciously. And oftentimes when we experience something in our life, it becomes the truth because we experienced it. And then we relive that and recreate it as the truth in our moment and forward. So oftentimes we get stuck, and people come to do our work and they get stuck. They're stuck. They want something, a relationship or a better relationship or work that's fulfilling or a place that's inspiring, but they can't seem to get to it. And so the practices that we teach are really, anybody in a body can get them if they're willing. A practice in learning how to be what I call this curious witness of this clay, this self. And so the book outlines more stories around, my experience that have eventually led me to really recognizing myself as who I am in terms of the truth of what I can offer and what I do well, what I love to do. This is a short life. So if we can get to something that really is the truth for us, then that is the best we can be doing. And that's what the book really is ultimately about, is sharing with people in my story to look at their own story and listen to their own truth.
Well, I love it, because we all got a truth that we have to listen to within ourselves, right?
Yes.
So, Freddie, we have a question here from Prophet Power, and it's, what inspired Freddie to write such a personal memoir after helping so many others?
Okay, well, I never say helping. I just say what I'm sharing is reminding people of what they've forgotten. Because when we're starting out in the womb, and I'll get to the answer to the question, it's like, there's anything possible. And we don't even have a story yet. It's just, the story is wonderful. Food is fed to us. It's warm. We don't worry about groceries. Everything's great. And then we're born, and, bright lights whacked on the bottom. Some guys are getting their wee-wees cut, and, then life happens, good, bad days, and then we get to a point in our life where we want to create something that we've never experienced before. So this is where we start looking at, okay, letting go of what we don't know. If we're curious about it and not resigned to that, there's nothing I can do about not having a relationship, or there are no good men or no good women, or, the job is just a job till I retire. Whatever we believe is the truth becomes our truth. So what inspired me to write this book to the listener is that I'm 70 years old now. And, I wanted to share something along the lines of what I've been doing the last 25 years of my life in terms of inspiring people to be in their own truth and their own happiness. And it's a moment by moment process. It's not like, okay, I did that, I'm done, and it'll always be wonderful. The ups and the goods and the bad things happen. They just don't stick around as long. We don't spin them like as the absolute truth. We move with the weather. We don't let the weather determine us. I can't change the weather, but I can change how I feel about it. So that's what really inspired me, to your listener, to write this book, is to share some of my stories, because some of them aren't so pretty, and some of them are kind of scary, and some of them are great and enlightening, and that's all part of my clay. And that's my story. We all have our stories, so that in reading my story, you think about your own story and see, where is your story showing up as the truth, or an unconscious blindness, or something that works for who you want to create and what you want to do and be in your life now. And so that, hopefully, the book will stimulate people, not help them, but guide them to a deeper listening in their own story.
Well, Freddie, how did you get the title of the book? And I'm just going to pull up the book. So for all the audio listeners, Freddie, if you'd just like to tell them what they're what we're looking at, so they can understand the cover and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so this cover is a picture of a show that I did at a place called Le Piano. It's a really beautiful jazz club in the Rogers Park area of Chicago. and it's got a Moulin Rouge vibe. And I was doing a jazz show there, and that picture's from that. Jazz and singing are something that I've been doing about the last 8 years. Before that, I was singing in a play for many years that I created called Sexual Enlightenment, which was a play that ran about an hour. And at the beginning of that play, I did it for like 15 years all over the world. And the idea of the play was to introduce people to these concepts that we teach at TantraNova through theater and music and art, concepts that they may not be interested in or had thought they were interested in, but were new. But this was a show that I was doing at the Leur Piano that night. That's where that. And so the Tantric Journey is because Tantra is the modality that we teach, the practices through the Tantric practices of breath, energy awareness, and working consciously with life force or sexual energy to get to that unseen unconsciousness that we are. And that's all outlined in my story in my book. And we have another book too that outlines in more detail specifically around those practices. But the work of Tantra is really in TantraNova, Tantra New, is working with the somatic self, working with the altered state of the sexual to get to the subconscious aspects of what we don't see energetically and emotionally and story belief that we don't normally see in our conscious state. And so this is my journey in seeing, you know, what I didn't see about who I was and who I was being through some of the stories in my earlier life. And it takes you right up to the moment.
And as everyone can see that is watching the video, the link for Freddy's book is right across the screen. So if you'd like to go and grab yourself a copy, be more than welcome to jump over and grab your copy. Freddy, why do you feel that people are scared to talk about the sexual energy?
Well, you know, sex is so vilified in our culture. And, you know, this is a Machiavellian world in that it's a security world. It's a private world. We'll be eaten if we're not protective. We lock our doors. This is mine, yours, war. The world's on fire, you know, and literally Canada is on fire right now. But I mean, in so many places and ways with war all over, the world is on fire and our leaders and so on. So, you know, the sexual thing, when we're in it, whether you're doing consciousness work or not, those moments are the most intimately connected, loving, vulnerable moments that we can experience as human beings. So there's a fear, a natural fear that is taught, you know, about it and around it. So when people consciously approach it, it's like, oh, it's got to be hidden because, you know, what we've learned about it. Now, in my play that I used to do, the Sexual Enlightenment show, I would demystify sex, love, and intimacy through the show. And it would start out with, I was a 5-year-old kid watching the cartoons and I hear my folks making love. And I'm curious. So I go down the hall and I open the door. They don't see me at first, but I see them. And I explain what I'm seeing. My father's on top by mom and I'm thinking he's hurting her. Then she turns him over and swings from the chandelier, you know. And then they see me and they stop. And, you know, and they're sitting up nude and they tell me to come in to sit at the edge of the bed. And the audience is in on it. They're thinking, oh my God, were they going to sexually abuse this kid? What's going to happen now? And my father says, you know, when I explain what I'm seeing, I see my mother's breasts and I'm thinking, I remember those, you know, and I see my father's penis and I'm thinking, oh, what happened to me? You know, I'm like, you know, and so there's this humor in it, you know, but my father says to me, young Freddy, and I'm sitting on the edge of the bed, we're making love. And one day you'll be even more interested in this than you are now. Could you leave and close the door? And then the show goes on through my, you know, teen years, and I illustrate my first masturbation scene. I have this big, huge white penis that I pull out. It's hilarious. And, you know, and it goes through. And at the end of the show, which ran an hour, had 5 songs in it. I did it all over the country and the world and all the workshop or retreats we would teach at and so on in places. I would open it for questions. And one guy raised his hand. One night I was performing at Kripalu, a yoga retreat in Lenox. And there was about 400 people in my audience. And this guy raised his hand. He says, you know, I'm a young father and I never thought I could say that to my kids if they came in on us. And another woman raises her hand and she says, yeah, I remember asking my mom, I heard noises. What were they doing? And she says they were wrestling. And another guy shares, yeah, I remember hearing my folks and my father rushed up to the door and opened the door and slapped my face and accused me of being a peeping Tom. So what do we get around this most vulnerable place that we can experience as humans in the sexual piece? We get lies, beatings, shaming. So this is where it begins, you know. So when people bring consciousness to the sexual, as we teach it in terms of an awareness and as a meditation, with breath awareness, energy awareness, and intention, like I want to create work that's fulfilling, as I mentioned earlier, a job or a better relationship or whatever it might be, we get more unmasked in this altered state, more endorphin, serotonin, oxytocin, the feel-good hormones, emotionally more vulnerable, receptive. We're in an altered state. So we can, some people do plant medicine, some people do, therapy. There's a lot of approaches to it, but few learn how to work with that altered state to see and get to something and begin. And we've been doing this for 25 years with all levels of people who are familiar and unfamiliar, and they get results.
We have a question here from Paula for you, Freddie. It is, what does conscious love truly mean in everyday relationships?
So, as I mentioned, what happens in that altered state that is God-given in our bodies. For the 3 seconds for guys, there's this freedom, there's this infinite possibility, that 3 seconds of orgasm. And that oftentimes in relationship is misunderstood by the guy and the female partner. Because, for men, we're given 2 emotions that are okay to show, and that's fucking or fighting. But emotional connectedness, intimacy, nurturing, don't do it. Don't cry on the football field, So we still have all those feelings. It's just not okay that we learn and we're modeled to show. But in that 3 seconds of orgasm, we are free of that. We are connected to the infinite possibility, the Big Bang. So when guys get an erection, and it's a physical outside obviousness, and with the testosterone, he wants to do something with it, either masturbate or have sex. So when he's in a relationship, it often appears to the woman that whenever he gets an erection, he wants to fuck me, and it just looks like, lust, selfish love. It doesn't, but he's really trying, and he's not even often aware of this, to connect with this infinite possibility. So to answer the question, what is conscious love in relationship? For men in tantric practice, we learn how to separate ejaculation from orgasm. And a lot of guys understand that to mean, oh, good, I'll be a better lover, it'll be longer lasting, and blah, 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 blah. So I'm not talking about lasting longer. A lot of guys can do that. Not everybody's a quick comer. Think about Babe Ruth, count backwards from 1,000, distract yourself. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about consciously circulating what I call this orgasmic nectar. And that requires breath awareness, energetic awareness, and some muscle control. And once we start to do that, we start to uncouple how this unconscious sexual piece has us as men. And that then allows us some freedom to, with our female counterpart, to move that energy to our heart, because you learn how to consciously circulate or to transmute that energy to the heart with breath and attention and intention awareness. And that then opens up, because energy is one, right? It's not just sexual energy or angry energy or sad energy. Science will tell you, it starts out energy is just one. So once we learn to transmute that, then we can transcend that unconsciousness. And for men, it opens up a whole nother brightness of possibility in terms of emotion and energetic and love.
So Freddie, how do we connect as the female and the male with understanding more of not the fucking and the fighting, but understanding the intimacy? Because that's something that is not really talked about today, is the intimacy, right? It's the sexual, like, let's have sex, let's just fuck, but nobody's really talking about intimacy. So how do we bring that conversation to the table for couples?
Yeah, that's a good question, Liz, because that's missing for a lot of people. A lot of couples come to our work and they have a good sex life, but there's something missing. They know there's something more. And that intimacy, into me I see, that stillness, that capacity to be with the intimate vulnerability. And that requires some practice, because we're in a protective state, and it's, justified in a lot of instances. So to begin to wade into the waters of vulnerability opens up the possibility to be in relationship in this way, when you are triggered because it looks like he did or she did something to get you. And usually it has nothing to do with you. Why is she wearing that damn short skirt? Well, she wants to show her ass, deal with your own jealousy and support her, and vice versa. And that's where the opportunities in anger and disconnect can become opportunities to grow and be present. And so that fearfulness is there, and so the practices that we teach are how to be with that somatic reaction of fear and angst and disconnect. Oftentimes, I keep talking about this clay and these old stories that when they show up don't look like I flinch whenever my husband or my girlfriend or my wife looks at me or whatever a certain way, because I don't remember when my father used to look at me that certain way and hit me. That's not the truth, but I mean, as an example, so when that flinch happens in relationship and understanding maybe through analysis, why and where it comes from, the genesis of it, it's the energy of it that gives me an opportunity to remember to breathe and be conscious. So sometimes these deep wounds can be the opportunity to keep growing and letting go and moving towards the flow. That rhymes.
Absolutely.
Letting go and moving towards the flow.
That's a musician in you, the flow. We had that flow the last time you were on Tea Time.
You're good like that, Miss Liz.
You always bring the flow in, Freddie.
Yeah. Oh, I like the flow.
Well, we have a question here for you, Freddie.
Yeah, please.
How did TantraNova begin, and what inspired its mission?
Well, so I was in the software business for many years in San Francisco. And when I first got in that business, it was exciting and new in the late 80s and early 90s. And then after about 10, 15 years, it was just a job. But I had continued to do tantric practices, go to workshops, read books, and apply these principles in my relationships. I never thought I could teach it. And anyway, so there was a company in Chicago that was interested in me, and I thought, oh, well, I'll move to Chicago. I've never been there. I was in San Francisco. So I took the job, still in the software business. And I was single online looking for Shakti, a female Tantra partner, on a Tantra site. And my partner Elsbeth's profile showed up. And we met, and she had her own idea what she wanted to do. She was in international business consulting, but had a higher purpose in her life. Well, we met, and 6 months to the day we met, we transcended what I call the romantic drama, pooled our resources, and created TantraNova. And 2 years to the day of that, we started making money, and we hadn't looked back. It's been 25 years, and that's how we started. The mission is to share with people how to be more authentically fulfilled in their life's dreams and deepest desires.
Freddie, what's the connection between the dreams and intimacy? Because there is a connection, right? So when we know within ourselves and our sexual feelings and satisfaction, that also encourages us for our dreams, right?
Yeah. Our dreams are like the quantum connection, so far we know the Machiavellian, not Machiavellian, but the physics of things, the hardness of a object. And yet now with the quantum understanding that there's more space between the hardness and it's all nothing. You can't even see it, yet it's everything. And energy makes up everything. So the dream is like our capacity to imagine something that's never been before out of nothing, which all of this is out of nothing. And we often, again, forget our dreams, or we become resigned to them in the fact that we haven't created or experienced it yet before. And so because it hasn't been physically experienced, it doesn't seem possible. So to connect with the dream, which is where it all starts, and to keep believing and moving. It's like most people want to do the things to have the things. I'm going to do this to have that. What we don't start with is the being, and that's the inside dreamer. And once we start believing and seeing, even the detours seem to melt away. We just keep moving through them. And most folks have had that in their life, where they went through school, or they raised children, or they had a hard time and they kept moving through it, and they got through it. So these are, go ahead.
We have a comment here, Freddie, that I just want to read out from Rochelle. I love hearing how mindfulness and authentic connection can strengthen relationships. You know, I always like bringing Freddie and Lisbeth to the table because they bring so much connection through the movement and the energy. Because the last time you guys were on Tea Time, I could see the connection right between the two of you. That flow, see
Yeah,
that flow, see, and his
yeah, the
eyes just
flow.
pop open when you give him the flow. He pops his eyes open, and he, you know, I just love how you bring the education to the table and make it feel safe for other people to share their experiences as well, Freddie.
Mm.
Was there a time when someone read your book and they said thank you for sharing this in the book?
Well, yeah. Matter of fact, there was a workshop we did, and one of the guys who was with his partner shared that it reminded him of his life. He was raised in the South Side of Chicago, and it was a pretty tough life. And there's some hard experiences in my book. So when I was very young, I wanted to be a professional basketball player. I thought that's what I wanted to do. And at 7 years old, I kept working at being a professional basketball player through high school, through 2 years of college, and every day, 3 hours a day. And I got to college on athletic scholarship. And after 2 years of college, my body was hurting, and I was feeling like it was kind of a slave farm. You know, that there were all white coaches, and the black guys were from the ghetto, and this was their only way out. And it just felt like, I don't know if I want to do this. My body was hurt. I didn't even know if I had the skills to continue on. I had 2 more years of college, and but at any rate, I gave up on my dream. I said, I'm going to just forget about basketball after, my sophomore year. And I was lost. I was completely lost. I was completely depressed and lost. And I wound up committing a crime. I ran into these people I knew. This one guy I knew from elementary school, and he was a professional criminal, and he had this big job he wanted to do and was going to make all this money. And so I wanted, I think subconsciously, to kill myself. And I did this thing, and I got caught. We got caught, and I got put in prison. And I went to prison, and that's in the book. And this reminded this guy who was in the workshop of something that had happened to him. And well, that sounds like horrible. And at the time I was in my mid-20s, and I thought it was the end of my life. If I had known, though, that I could have run for president, I wouldn't have been so upset. But I was, so I go and I do this time, but it was an interesting experience because it was like being in a war zone. And, sometimes you really learn who you are when you are in the most difficult circumstances. And so I wound up, I got a job. They gave me a job in the administrative offices. So I was typing up work orders and this and that. And then there was this group that used to work with young people who were in danger of getting in criminal legal jeopardy. There was a group out of San Quentin called Scared Straight, and they were these big bad criminals, and they'd bring these delinquents in, and they'd try and scare them to death. So this program that I was in did use theater and use sharing their experiences. They moved me after being in a maximum security prison to a minimum security prison after they observe you for a while. I got 2 years. They then decide who you are, so I was in this minimum security prison, which was still a prison. I mean, there are guards with guns and barbed wire and all that. But in this group, we were allowed to go out to the community and share our story and do these theatrical performances that illustrated various peer pressure situations. Well, after 6 months, or I think 3 months in the program, the guy who was the president was paroling out, and they elected me as the president. And when I was in there the first time, at the beginning, it was all white. And I was the only black guy in there. So my first goal was to integrate. I was going to have an equal number of black, white, Asian, Mexican, everybody, And so what happened is I started getting a lot of heat, pushback, life-threatening experiences from the Muslims, the black Muslims in the prison. I mean, I had to have people guard me, and it was pretty crazy. So I scheduled a meeting with the imam, which was the guy who was head of the Muslims in the prison, and we had a sit down. And I explained to him what I was doing, which was kind of like what Malcolm X did when he went to Mecca and saw that there were Muslims of all colors, not just black Muslims. There were all Muslims from all over the world and all different races. And he got it, and suddenly the pressure went away, and I went on and did that program. But even in that seemingly lemons, I made lemonade. And in the book, there's a lot of other experiences that I had that were quite experiential. And so all this stuff is just by experience. The meaning we give to something is what we do. I mean, after that, I went on, I had a career in corporate America. I started this business 25 years ago. I mean, we're doing great, you know? And so it wasn't the end of my life. And oftentimes we feel, oh, a divorce or an illness or someone passing, it feels like the end of our life. And in this moment, if you hear me, if you hear my words, you have a life in this very moment. And, you know, we don't know how much time any of us has, you know, so let's do what we do, like you're doing your show, and you're not going to stop doing your show. And that's one of your,
I tried stopping last year, and a lot of people told me to come back, so I'm back.
Yeah, so, you know, so we do what we do while we're here. And, you know, we don't know how much time we do or don't have. So that's really it, is to really get out of our head of suffering. Oh, the weather, or, oh, you know, the shirt came back from the cleaners with a stain on it. And, you know, we look around and the gratefulness of, I mean, I look up and I go, wow, it's not a war zone, you know, and I've got water to drink, and there's such blessings, you know, so yeah. Anyway.
It's the little things, right? It's really the little things.
Yeah. Well,
Rick, we have a couple more questions that came in, and I'd like to get them out. Those. The next one's from Rick. Was there one life-changing moment that completely redirected Freddy's paths?
Well, yeah, coming to Chicago in the software business, a couple of things. So the first company that hired me here, I had a director who we were out working with a client. And on the way, he asked me what I like to do. And so one of the things that I did after my experience in the prison system is I started to do stand-up comedy. And I told him about this comedy thing. I didn't tell him about the prison thing. No one knew about that. I kind of kept that. You know, they don't hire you if you tell the truth, and they fire you if you do. He tells me, oh yeah, what kind of comedians like? And I said, oh, Richard Pryor. And he says, he's a white guy. He says, oh yeah, Richard and those nigger jokes. And I said, you know, you use that word awfully loosely. I said, I tell you, that word for me conjures up, you know, sexual abuse, raping, castration, slavery, you know. And he says, well, you know, you black guys use it with each other all the time. And I said, yeah, but that's kind of like, you know, people commiserating their suffering together. But if you aren't in that suffering, you really, you know, don't use it. And so I talked to him about it. And then I told the general manager about this, and they moved to fire me. This is Chicago. I didn't realize how they thought that I was going to create some kind of case or whatever. And I was just telling him about this guy. And so they fired me. Then another company hired me right away. And then they did a deep dive on my background. This is kind of, computers were just coming in, you know, so they could do real quick checks. And they found, after they hired me and I was doing a great job, they found out that I had this conviction. And so they fired me for it because I lied about it. And I said to myself, I'm never going to work for another company again. This is after I'd been after that experience in lockup, and I had been in corporate America for 20 years. And then this thing happens. And so I'm like, I'm not going through this. This is the first time any of that had ever happened, come up on for me like that. Because the computers were coming in, and I think checks were much more available online and so on. And so that was the life-changing event. And then I met Elsbeth, and then we pooled our resources. She had gone through a 2-year certification program to teach this work in Maui, and I went through the same program. But we had started our business, and I went through and got that certification. And that really did help me solidify how we could formulate our curriculum to work. I knew a lot about what this work is, but that program really assisted me an awful lot. But that was the big changing moment. You know, sometimes we have to have a breakdown before a breakthrough happens, you know, and that
Absolutely.
was
it. Well, Freddie, we have a question here from Kelly, and it's, what's one habit people can practice today to build deeper connections?
Yeah. So let's do this. Everybody who's listening, if you could sit up comfortably, or if you're laying down, that's fine as well. Your eyes can be open, closed, or soft focus. We're just going to do a little bit of breathing. This is parasympathetic breathing. So typically we breathe sympathetically in the upper lungs, the chest. We don't think about it. We breathe, we oxygenate through the blood. The body is happy. So this breathing is going to be through the nose, and we're going to extend the diaphragm behind the belly. So we're actually just extending the belly as we inhale through the nose. Maybe put a hand on your belly to really feel that extension, and then follow with your awareness, your breath back up and out through your nose. Now, as you do this, be gentle with yourself, because most of us can only concentrate for about 3 breaths before we get distracted with a thought. Once you recognize you're distracted with a thought, come back to the breathing. We're just going to do a few of these breaths. Okay, let's begin. Seated up comfortably, sitting on your sit bones or on your back, your eyes open, close, your soft focus, hand on your belly. Now follow with your awareness, your breath coming into your nose, down your trachea, into your lungs, extending into your diaphragm and belly like a big balloon on your inhalation. Really feel that extension, the belly into your hand. And on your exhalation, feel the belly flatten towards the spine, following the breath with your awareness back up and out through your nose. Keep breathing in that manner. I'm going to keep speaking. Feeling the rise of your belly on your inhalation. Flattening of your belly on your exhalation with your breath back up and out through your nose in your own pace, depth, and rhythm, letting your thoughts come and go. Following your breath into your nose, trachea, lungs, extending into your diaphragm and belly like a big balloon on your inhalation, feeling that extension. Following your breath back up and out through your nose in your own pace, depth, and rhythm. A few more breaths, stay with it. Beautiful. Slowly bringing your awareness back into the space and opening your eyes. Now that was about 5 breaths. And in those 5 breaths, you could see how busy your mind is and how quickly the stories begin and cascade into what I call the total felt sense of the story. When is this thing going to be over? Oh, I got to go back to my breath. Oh, did I feed the cat? And, 1,000 thoughts. So as we continue to practice this type of parasympathetic breathing, we begin to what we call develop the witness state of mind. The thoughts don't stop. I've been doing this since I was 13 years old. I'm 70 now. And the thoughts don't stop. But what I've learned to do is watch the thoughts without the total felt sense of the thought. And it's in that we can begin to uncouple the somatic experience from the thought. And then we can start to move into possibility, choice. So when you're wanting to create a thing or let go of a thing, to do this type of breathing starts to give you a little separation. So when we breathe this way, we're creating more endorphins, serotonin, oxytocin, the feel-good hormones. So we're putting ourselves in a chemical state of ease. So we're oxygenating much more efficiently. So it's that that somatic experience, and then the awareness of the thoughts and the stories that develop, again, this capacity over a short period of time to start to uncouple the charge. So if you do this, you asked the question, what can we do? So if you do this 10 breaths in the morning before you start your day, hand on your belly, 10 belly breaths, just stay with it until you get through it. When you recognize you're in a thought, just come back to the breath and pick up wherever you were in 5 or 1 breath or 2 breaths or 10 breaths or wherever you are, and just complete 10 breaths. And then do it for 1 week and watch yourself through your working day, how quickly you can recognize your upsets, your disconnects, your stories. Oh, this traffic, or how could she? Oh, I'm just telling myself a story. And it's in that story that we create the feeling, and then we create the results and the action. So once we can shift the story, we shift the energy, and then we can shift the results, and we can shift the action.
Well, Freddy, thank you for giving us that practice. And anybody that wants to continue this practice, they can watch this tea time over and over again, and Freddy can walk you through it. So that's why these tea times are there. Go back and listen to them over and over again. Freddy, we have another question here from Todd this time is, how has your own definition of intimacy changed over the years?
Right, great. Well, I sing jazz, and my performances are an opportunity for me to keep letting go and being present, because I'm like everybody else, and I'm just as full of stories and story making as anyone. I ride motorcycle, and in that I'm very present. The thing about motorcycles, if you aren't, you wind up hurting yourself. So one of the things is it's a mindless meditation You know, you're aware of the smells, the movement, the sounds. Much different than a car. You can drive somewhere and not even remember how you got there. You've been playing, you're talking to people on the phone, listening to music, and you're just daydreaming. Whereas a motorcycle, you're very present in the moment. And then in my performances, I rehearse and so on, but I'm in that moment with an audience. And there's a connective moment where I am totally in a space of being present to what I'm doing in a way that connects to people's listening. And there's an authenticity, there's a joy, there's a familiarity in it. And that's one of the ways that I practice mindfulness in my work, in my life. And then what we teach in TantraNova, working with people, I feel my life is completely integrated in authenticity and constantly practicing, like that belly breath, the actualizations of what I'm doing in my life that are the things that feel good, that I love to do, that are my best gifts that I could be doing in this life, in this time, however I got, however much time. I'm glad we got a few moments, because I don't know what's going to happen after this. I might go on a motorcycle and something happened, I'm not,
you just never know. The flow might come into Freddy.
You never know. So, I'm glad I'm here right now.
Well, we have another question here for you from Strategy Show. It's what's one misconception people often have about Tantra?
Well, you mentioned it earlier, Miss Liz, that, the sexual piece, that it's all about some trick in the bedroom. It's going to make me a better lover. And it can be all of that. And yet what really happens for people when they get into this is they see an unmasking. When you bring consciousness to the sexual, what's interesting, the kernel, the essence of that energy, it's creative, it creates life, it's pleasurable when we're in it. When we bring consciousness to the sexual in the way that we're sharing it as a meditation, creativity and pleasure start showing up outside of the bedroom in areas of life that seem completely unrelated to sex. So when I start being conscious in that intimate vulnerability of that altered state of the sexual as a meditation, that awareness does not leave after that bedroom experience or that sexual explicit experience is over. If I'm out in my day and I say, oh, I hate my job, 30 more years of retirement, what that cascading thought, that story, that voicing does to my energy. I'm listening now to my energy. I wouldn't even say that. I would either find the things that feel good about my job or change my job as I continue to be authentic in my life and in this time that I have.
Absolutely. So, Freddie, in the book, what do you want the readers to get from it?
Well, hopefully they enjoy some of my stories. There's some interesting ones in there, and that they think about their own story and their own uniqueness and begin to listen to their own authenticity. As, we're unique, each of us. We're like little diamonds, each of us. And we all have something very unique to offer while we're here. So that hopefully in reading my story, you tap into your own story and continue to offer your gifts and do what you do to make the world and leave it a little better.
And Freddie, what lessons from your memoir surprised you the most when writing it?
Some of the energy, the emotional energy that I still had on some of these stories, remembering like the one that I mentioned with my father, with the house, and there was a sort of sad, he passed away about 5 years ago. Had a good life, 94 years old, died in bed. We all should be so lucky. But, the sadness of that, someone would, want to pay cash and go through medical school and would still be denied, and that denial be supported by the laws and the state and the neighbors, that how magnificent we can be as humans to each other, and really how horrible we can be to each other as humans. And that, part of our opportunity, I think, is to continue to expand to seeing ourselves in each other, that we create a better world for all living things.
So, Freddie, how has working alongside your wife strengthened both your relationships and your mission?
Well, we're doing this work all the time. We're not above it. We fall in the same old traps that all relationships do. And like I mentioned earlier, sometimes our deepest wounds or upsets are opportunities for us to have a breakthrough. So when we go into our, one or the other and ourselves, takes that breath and takes that pause back, and then we can get off of it really quickly. Things don't stop happening, they just don't stick around as long. We can get very upset about something and get right off of it, and then share what was there in a way that the other can get it and that we can get it for ourselves. And without, externally referencing the upset being because they did something.
Absolutely.
That's one of the keys, is owning your own upsets. When it looks like it's an outside reason that you're upset, that's the first key to tuning into yourself and seeing, well, what's the genesis of that? What is that all about? What is my upset about that?
And sometimes, is it internal upset that's causing the frustration?
It's an internal story or a belief or an energy or experience. Because just beneath all upsets is just this savasana, this easy going, this easy breath, this joy. Once I let go of, the rain is falling, then it's just, wow, the plants are being watered and the air is so fresh now, and I'm going to go out and put some rain on my face, Yeah. Once we can shift from the suffering mind and the story about something, then we can start to move into some relief.
So Freddie, writing this memoir, was it a struggle for you to write it, or was it releasing? Was it inspiring for you, motivating? What feeling did it give you?
All of that, Miss Liz. Sometimes it was easy, sometimes it was hard, and it's funny because I had the manuscript completed probably 6 months before we actually did anything with it, and it was just sitting around on the desk, and Elsbeth was like, we gotta get this thing done. And then she, got the guy from one of the online things, and we hired him, and he formatted the book for Amazon and did some other things with it. And then we got it out there, and then she created the cover, and then the manuscript was up and it was out and it was done. So.
And how did it feel once it was done?
It was like, next.
What are we doing now?
More of a motorcycle ride now. It was like, okay, I can relax. It's done. My life is finished. No, it was just like, okay, that project's done. I felt good to complete it. Yes, it did. Completion is.
Well, I know what Freddie's doing after this tea time. He's going for a motorcycle ride.
I don't know. I had a really good one yesterday. It's funny because, Buddy called and he says, hey, man, we're putting a ride together. I said, great. So we went on this wonderful ride yesterday, and I had forgotten, and I usually ride alone. And it was so much fun to be in community with these guys, and it was really good. But I had forgotten it was my father's birthday on the 19th. And I think it was my father speaking to me through the ethers, like, go do that thing you love with your friends, and it was. My tuchus, my butt is a little sore today, so I'm kind of taking it easy.
You see, Freddie has that flow again. Well, Freddie, we have a question here from the Thrive Show. What advice would you give someone beginning their own healing journey today?
Well, the healing just reveals itself in the capacity to dream what you want and how you want to feel. And if there's some resistance or some incapacity at this moment to create that, then therein lies your path. It's in doing practices like that, simple breathing practices, and other things that you can learn through TantraNova or the reading of the books or other things and ways you can begin to have a practice that gives you more familiarity, accessibility, and familiarity with the observer, the witness of the clay, because our resistance to what we most deeply desire in our dreams is ourselves. And it often lives in the deep recesses of our neurosynaptic automaticity, our story, our experience. And it's in being a witness of that, curious of ourselves, that we can begin to step by step, moment by moment through practices, flatten what I call the experience, the somatic automaticity, and move towards, with a plan, our goal. And so, yeah.
Well, Freddie, we have a question here, and then I'm going to get your final message for everybody. What keeps you inspired after helping people for so many years?
Doing something every day that I love to do. This feeling of connectedness is not something that just, I just think about it. So I wake up in the morning, I meditate, it brings everything back. And then I maybe go sing. And then maybe I go work out. I do some physical work, yoga, or go to the club and do something. Maybe I ride the motorcycle. Maybe I write something. Maybe we're teaching. So constantly in my life, and not all of us can right now do the things that we love. We can find what we love in the things that we're doing and continue to expand that to be more and more authentic in what it is your gift is. Because we all have a special, as I mentioned earlier, the special thing. So keep tuning into that special thing. You might be a lawyer, but you said, I always want to be a horticulturist. Well, go be a horticulturist, or, whatever it might be, just do that little thing, that little shift. Remind yourself of the joy in this life. However much or little you can keep doing that, the better.
So, Freddie, do you have any events that are coming up together, or
Yeah, probably. Elsbeth,
you're writing another book? What you up to?
Well, let's see. We do have. I'm doing a soiree, a jazz soiree here at the house. We're traveling next month, but in October we're doing a soiree, and it's on the website www. It's at the bottom of your thing, TantraNova.com, and you go to events, and you can see when the show is going to be here in Chicago at our institute. But then we've got workshops. Everything's on the website. I can't pinpoint anything, but we've always got workshops going, private session work, body work workshops, all kinds of things. So please take a look and see what might fit at TantraNova.com.
And I'm going to pop your book up one more time. So where can people find your book?
Yeah, Amazon or on our website, which will take you back to Amazon.
Awesome. So, Freddie, what's
digital
your
or a hard copy? Mm-hmm.
And Freddie, what's your final message for everybody today?
Well, it's kind of simple, but enjoy your life. Enjoy your life. And sometimes we want to fight about that. Oh yeah, but what about the the kids, the job, the. Enjoy your life. Let that story go. You are choosing your life. Choose the things in your life, those things that really get you, change them. Keep choosing your life and moving towards your joy. Yeah. And enjoy it.
Well, I really want to thank you, Freddie, for joining me. It's always a pleasure having you on the show. It's an honor to have all of you guests pop in with your questions. And thank you guys for continuing to support Miss Liz. I could not do this without all of you guys. 7 p.m. show has been rescheduled to August 5th, so stay tuned for that. All the flyers will be out, so stay tuned for tonight. 7 p.m. has been rescheduled again. I'm just going to do a quick recap of what today's tea time was, and I will see everybody on Tuesday, tomorrow. I will see everybody tomorrow. I'm not used to these Mondays and Fridays.
You're busy.
Well, what a beautiful and thoughtful, provoking conversation we've shared today. Freddie, thank you for bringing your openness, wisdom, and years of experience to the tea time table. Today's conversation reminded us that healing, love, and transformation begins within ourselves before they can truly be shared with others. We explored mindfulness, conscious relationships, personal growth, emotional awareness, and the importance of living with intention instead of simply moving through life on autopilot. One of today's greatest takeaways is this: transformation doesn't happen overnight. It unfolds one mindful moment, one honest conversation, and one intentional choice at a time. Through Zental, my Tantric Journey, you've shown us that vulnerability is not weakness. It is the doorway to deeper connections, greater compassions, and a richer understanding of ourselves and the people we love. As we close today's tea time, I'd like to leave everyone with this thought. What if the peace we've been searching for isn't somewhere outside of you, but has been quietly waiting for you to slow down and reconnect with your own heart? Because when we become present with ourselves, we create space to live more fully, love more deeply, and serve others more authentically. Freddie, thank you for sharing your remarkable journey and reminding us that every day offers an opportunity to awaken, grow, and live with greater purpose. Until next time, continue living consciously, continue leading with love, and continue serving real life tea, truth, experience, and awareness, one conversation at a time. And today's takeaway from Miss Liz is the journey towards a meaningful life doesn't begin when everything around us changes. It begins when we choose to become fully present with who we are. Presence creates peace, and peace allows love, healing, and transformation to flourish. And I'll see everybody tomorrow, and we'll do this all over again.